is Demia Avery with Whatchu Doin, North Carolina. And you know that this podcast is designed to shed light on the positive people, places, and things right here in the beautiful state of North Carolina. I see you, we see you, and it's great to be seen. Now, I am so excited about my guest today because I was just telling him off the air that I have known him and his wife. They have done so much in the community. I've known them for quite a while now, and I've never had them on the show. I don't know why, but I'm glad to have him now. Now, I have a little bit of introduction, so I have to make sure that I give him a little bit of his flowers. My guest today is doing big things for both business and community. He's the co-founder and CEO of Genesis Block, a hub that's fueling entrepreneurship right here in Wilmington and across North Carolina. He's also the founder of KWHCoin, a company that took renewable energy and blockchain and created real world solutions. So innovation is in his DNA. He's been named one of Wilmington's top 100 business leaders, and now he's added author to the list with his new book, Newkirknomics, a blueprint to build a neighborhood economy. His mission to show us how we can grow stronger communities and thriving businesses starting at the neighborhood level. Please welcome the amazing Girard Newkirk. Welcome.
Why, thank you, ma'am. That was amazing. I feel solid. I'm ready for it now. I feel
You
pressure
ready?
now. I need to go pull some notes up.
Not at all, not at all. I got a feeling you're the type that's always prepared anyway. So I, I'm sure you're good. Now, listen, when I was doing a little research on you, I noticed that you grew up in Pender County. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you made your way all the way out to Silicon Valley before coming back home. What pulled you back to Wilmington, and what has been like for you um, bringing all this experience that you have back to your hometown?
Yeah, well, like you said, I was born and raised in in Burgaw, North Carolina, in Pender County, and my pops lived out in Atkinson, so I spent a lot of time out there on Sunset. I got a lot of family out there, and so Pender County was home for me. But I was out in California. I had a job out there as vice president of Macy's. Left there to get into technology, and then 2018, and moved back. Part of it had to do with that was the vision anyway. Was my longer vision for once I got out of California, I really got inspired is to how could I do what they did out there in
Mm-hmm.
rural communities, kind of off-grid communities, the Caribbean, the diaspora, places that really needed economic development. And
Okay.
so my first startup was building an economy off renewable energy.
Mm.
So that was that was kind of 2015 when I started in that space. But then when I moved back here, I had my experiences out in California, and I got really connected into the startup scene and the incubator scene. I was in the Google for startups. I was in Oracle for startups. So I was in a lot of big tech kind of startup environments. And what I
Mm-hmm.
noticed is that they have all of this infrastructure to support tech companies to go from ideation to commercialization. But for what I call the neighborhood economy, like Main Street businesses, for people that grew up like I grew up, small town in North Carolina, there was not nearly the resource pool to help support their entrepreneurship and their dreams and their vision of becoming business owners. So
Okay.
that stuck with me, you know. And so
Yeah.
when I moved back, Genesis Block kind of came from that. I was at Google for startups, and I realized how much further along all of the companies that were from New York, that were from LA, that had grew up in those startup ecosystems, how far ahead of me they were, because I really had only been in Silicon Valley for about 2.5 years.
Okay.
And I was like, man, if I had known all of this, oh my God, how much further along would I be? And so
Yeah.
that was kind of the Genesis Block. And it was
Mm.
kind of how can I create a system that supports entrepreneurship, advancing entrepreneurship in communities that often get overlooked, particularly now that entrepreneurship and small business growth is so important to the economy.
Yeah.
So that was kind of what the brainstorm was. And it got
Mm-hmm.
to this point now with Newkirknomics and Newkirklytics after all this 9 years of looking at economies, looking at communities. I did a lot of work out in Oakland and San
Okay.
Francisco and the communities out there as well. So I've seen a lot
Mm-hmm.
from experientially,
Yeah.
I've seen a lot. So what I've worked on the last 9 years is how can I build systems and frameworks to support a lot of the gaps that I've seen that are being overlooked constantly.
Now, just listening to you, what you were saying about all the different experience that you have gained, especially being out there, was it a different mindset that you had to have in order to, because I just know, when you go from different regions and different state, the mindset is different. How were you able to navigate that? Because was that
Yeah.
difficult at all for you?
To me, I was so far behind when I got there. It was for the
Mm,
first time in my life I actually felt like I was 10 years behind because
mm,
I worked with Belk, and so I switched companies to Macy's. So that
okay.
was going from a smaller company to a Fortune 500 company. So that was a really big leap as far as their systems. And then when I got inspired about entrepreneurship and the mindset out there, and everybody wanted to build something, they were builders. They weren't just talkers. That's why I got
Mm-hmm.
that saying, I'm not a talker. That came from being out west. We kind of pride out there. The mentality was to pride yourself on conceptualizing an idea to get to an MVP so you can test it and let the customer build it. And I'd
Okay.
never heard anything like that before. So speed was of the importance because there was so much competition. And I think the mindset out there was to build and grow assets. There wasn't
Mm-hmm.
as much talking about like, FICO scores and consumption. Out there, it was more about building, gaining assets, building this company so you can sell and start this project. So I had
Mm-hmm.
to really catch up. And I really got so inspired out there just because of everyone, a lot of people, they read a lot. They were very well versed. I love to read too, so I fit in there. But they were trying to find solutions for real problems.
Mm.
And that was a big shift because I spent so many years in retail when we were just selling consumer goods versus
Right.
trying to solve an issue. And that's really what inspired me to get into entrepreneurship, to shift my mindset. And that's why I do a lot of work in mindset. Is it in order to achieve your fullest, I guess we
Mm-hmm.
should, is you have to shift your mindset from your prior, I call it your past prism of perceptions. You
Okay.
you through that kaleidoscope, and that the prison of your past perceptions becomes, it just becomes patterns that just
Yeah.
repeat over and over and over and over again. And so I found myself, I was like, oh my God, everything out here is so different. So the mindset was so much more innovative, so much more that there was no failures out there. Everybody was just trying to build. So I loved it. And I try to bring some of that kind of mentality back when I moved back here.
Now, with Genesis Block, is that some of the things that you all teach there, the at
Mhm.
Genesis Block with the different mindsets? And you can talk more about Genesis Block as well. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
something that you guys teach?
Sure. Yeah. Our first segment is entrepreneur mindset. We have a lot of workshops, regardless of what program, whether it be Jumpstart, Whisk Begin, some of our customer finds, some of our newer programs. We all start with a mindset workshop because we have 4 different entrepreneurial mindsets that you need in order to be successful at each level. And I'm not going to
Yeah.
go through the 4 different mindsets, but essentially, the program is, for example, whenever you're going from, I just cut the ribbon,
Mm-hmm.
so I just opened to get ready to open 5 locations. Your mindset has to shift from a business to more, you're going to exit. You have to build your company to sell it. So
Okay.
that shift is a lot less operationally focused. You're now looking more at things like EBITDA. What does my balance sheet look like? What are my assets worth? So in each phase of the entrepreneurial development, there's a
Mm-hmm.
mindset shift. At the very beginning stages, you're more like a scientist. So you want to
Okay.
apply the scientific method. You want to do a hypothesis, design experiments, test them, prove them, get them to the market to see what the market says. So you're more like a scientist. But as you continue to grow and build,
Mm-hmm.
you have to have a much more structured mindset as the venture grows. So mindset shifting, I hear so many people always say that your net worth is your net worth. It's
Mm-hmm.
really your self-worth is your net worth, because
Mm.
that's ultimately what externalizes. Where
Yeah.
you perceive yourself and where what you perceive as your self-worth is going to externalize in your experience. So a lot of our work is trying to get our entrepreneurs to see themselves as more valuable. I tell them that you're worth $1,000 an hour. So every time that as far as your daily activities, you should look at yourself as your time is worth $1,000 an hour. So if you're spending time on a podcast or you're spending time with a person, understand in real and as far as the value of your venture, it's
Mm,
$1,000 an hour to you. And
mm.
that is to help them see themselves as more valuable. My time is worth, so it can orient their minds to taking on more high value activities as they grow their venture.
Got it, got it. Because if I understand that completely, because if you don't see yourself as being the person that can get that money, or being successful, or being, or like you said, having that actual net worth, you're only going to go as far as you see yourself. Is that what pretty
That's
much is what you're saying?
pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. And, I said that on a panel. I challenged the guy because, we've heard all the time, your net worth is your net worth. And absolutely, when it comes to commercialization, but the
Mhm.
foundation of that is your self worth.
Yeah.
So a lot of the mindset shift is saying, all right, and we have our company set 3-year targets, and then
Mm,
we break it up into then 12 quarters of success targets and milestones. And so
mm,
we're saying, I've already created this $15 million venture, for example. Now we're
mm.
just going to reverse engineer the path. But your mindset is that I've created a $15 million venture.
Got
And
it.
now I'm just reverse engineering the path to externalize my $15 million venture in 3 years.
Got
So
it.
that's a big shift because most think the exact opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you guys run Genesis Block. Primarily it's run by you and your wife Tracy. And what roles do you guys play in the company?
Yeah, well, Tracy runs the foundation, Genesis
Mhm.
Block Foundation.
Okay.
Now, this year's been a year of transition because I'm developing a lot more product with the launch of the book.
Hmm.
I'm going to be launching my next venture called Newkirknomics
Okay.
to build the operating system for this neighborhood economy.
Hmm.
So Tracy takes on more of the programmatic role. She's leading in community engagement, particularly in our events like Meet the Neighbors, Chef's Fishing, Conversations to Contracts.
Hmm.
Throughout this year, my role is taking on more consultative, building out the playbooks, the toolkits, the systems that can be operationalized because we're starting to do a lot more work now in Jacksonville and other places that have different local economies. So based on whatever existing assets that community has,
Hmm.
we're tooling systems and programs to fit that. And so that's
Got
new.
it.
That's we've been in Wilmington, but it's totally different in Jacksonville, and starting to work in Rocky Mountain is totally different there. And me with the book launching and starting to build more playbooks and consultation products, the
Hmm.
research takes so much more time, which I love the research, but
Yeah.
now I feel that we're tooling our organizations to be a lot more data rich. And so
Mm.
we're going to be a lot, we can be a lot more impactful to a lot more entrepreneurs by helping guide policy decisions with much more comprehensive data. And
Hmm.
also by providing tools for entrepreneurs to have higher success rates earlier. That's what we've
Yeah.
seen in Jumpstart and Which Begin is companies were taking steps to either open a brick and mortar, for example, without having any operational expertise.
Hmm.
So it's open 9 months, then closes. So we're trying to get ecosystems now organized so we can see where you really are as far as
Hmm.
coaching, contract readiness, capital readiness, and then we
Yeah.
build out programming based on that.
Yeah. Now, I'm definitely going to get into this book because I hear that it's all the rage right now. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention you're doing some exciting things with KWH Coin as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, so how did that idea come to life, and where did you see opportunities like that heading in the future?
Yeah, so I was a cypherpunk back in the 90s. So when I
Hmm.
was in college when all of this internet stuff started and decentralizations. And so I was always a fan of digital currency because I thought that digital currency is how it could democratize wealth. Because as long as
Okay.
you had a phone, you didn't need like larger institutions to serve as an intermediary for like your financial transactions. And I don't want to get too techy, but that's where it started out. And I got really involved in things that were happening in the Caribbean and Africa. And at that point, there were 1.2 billion people in the world that didn't have access to electricity. But if you go to Africa and the Caribbean, a lot of these places, most of it is solar. They don't have electricity, but everybody has phones. They have
Right.
and it's 5G. So Africa is actually developing backwards. Like the internet connection is better there than it is here. I swear to God.
Mm.
So my first thinking was, how can we use an application with phones so people could trade energy, and this could be their currency,
Okay.
and this is how they could. And so that's where KWHCoin came from, and all of the work that I did in decentralized technologies and working with people trying to build to increase their knowledge about things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, is because essentially the internet from 2000 to, I will say, from when I was in college, from the late 90s to early 2000, was about information sharing. So you had platforms now like Facebook where you share messages, Instagram, Google is a collecting data and information. The internet of the next generation is going to be about exchanging value, things like assets, money, so
Mm-hmm.
those things. So what I do now, what I'm speaking a lot on, is preparing communities to get ready for the new digital age that's going to happen. We're doing everything on our phones now. So we have to begin to build and understand what the next markets are going to be.
Right.
So along with KWHCoin, I also did a lot in building out blockchain programs to educate, especially in Oakland and San Francisco, and gangs and minority organizations, everywhere that I thought that a community could get advanced knowledge on an emerging technology and
Mm-hmm.
it be a pathway to a better way of life. I was sharing that information. And
Mm.
so now with my newest ventures, is going to take some of that same technology and apply it to the neighborhood economy. So I'm excited about it now because I know
Yeah.
all the ins and all the outs.
But where you find the time to do all this, Gerard? Because I have a little problem with managing the little stuff that I have. You have a
Yeah.
lot of stuff going on. I'm
You
like,
got 168 hours in a week. All right, let's break it down to me. Yeah. There's 168 hours in a week, 7 days,
yeah,
right? So between
yeah.
sleeping, eating, using the restroom, all that sort of stuff, it's going to leave with about 100 hours, roughly.
Okay.
So you probably have about 100. So you can work 50 of those 100 hours and still have 50 left. So
Well,
I do have a very structured kind of system, but when you
okay.
ring it all out, there's more time than you think. I found, and that was part of what I found. It's interesting that you say that. For a
Mm-hmm.
couple of years, I was engaged in too many low value activities, things that weren't pushing forward my platforms, my publishing, the things I want to do with the podcast. And so this year, especially the last year, I'm almost been a hermit and just really focused on getting a routine, the success oriented, challenging myself to hit targets. And so
Mm-hmm.
I get up at about 5:30 or 6, go to the gym, go to
Mm-hmm.
bed about 10:30 and do it again.
Okay. Okay, cool. So let's get to talking about your book.
Oh
So
yeah.
for someone that hearing that term of the uh, I'm sorry, for Newkirknomics, I love the name of this book. I love the title. What inspired you to write it? And what do you hope that people walk away with after reading it?
Yeah, well, I love economics since I was a little kid. It's just
Yeah.
something I'm talking about early on. And
Mm,
really, Newkirknomics is really neighborhood economics. I think
okay.
that it's inspired by the fact, and I wrote about this on LinkedIn, that there's a $35 trillion neighborhood economy that exists in front of us, but it's invisible. It's largely invisible. It's rarely ever measured, and it makes it investable. So the whole premise of Newkirknomics is to provide a blueprint to build this economy, this neighborhood economy, to redirect this money back into our neighborhoods, back in our communities to fuel
Got it.
community prosperity. And it's
Yeah.
based on 5 pillars. The first is data. So we need new metrics to measure the neighborhood economy. And when I
Hmm.
say the neighborhood economy, people go talk about Wall Street, GDP, and all these broad metrics. I'm talking about the layer of the economy that's closest to your life, to your quality of life. This is the
Okay.
stores that you shop day to day, the food that you eat, the doctors that support you, the people that you walk out. That economy is often overlooked. And so it's 5 pillars. And the first one is that new metrics to measure this economy so that
Mm-hmm.
we can bring visibility to it. The second one is Main Street ownership. We have an ownership crisis in America. Right now in our country, if you look at ownership, it looks more like third world serfdom than a flourishing democracy.
Mm-hmm.
The third one is production over consumption. We consume too much. We need to produce more goods, produce more products, produce more innovation,
Agreed.
produce more services.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth is homegrown supply chains, meaning our local procurement spending, for example, from hospitals, universities, um, local governments, they spend billions of dollars. Actually, $1.7 trillion a year is spent, but only 2% of that is spent in the neighborhood or in the communities that they serve. So we want to provide visibility to that to redirect some of those funds. And then the last one is entrepreneur placement by their stage of development. So the 5 stages to entrepreneurship: the ideation, your product development, your business modeling, growth, and scaling. So at each stage, you need different types of core resources. So in the book, I lay out that every community should have an organized entrepreneurship ecosystem that allows that space so that entrepreneurs, based on their development stage, they get the quality services that they need. And
Mm-hmm.
so the book, I lay this out as being the foundation for a thriving community, because small businesses and entrepreneurs are the biggest drivers of new jobs.
Yeah.
65% of new jobs that are created in the last 20 years, they've all come from entrepreneurs and small businesses. So
Mm.
essentially what Newkirknomics is asking local governments, politicians, agencies to look at their local economy through this lens versus the same generic, traditional left versus right dichotomy that's dominated us for the last 40, 50 years. Now we need to look at how can we make our neighborhoods more prosperous. So this is
Yeah.
going from globalization to localization.
Now, without telling us about, everything that's in the book, if I'm an entrepreneur and I pick up your book for the first time,
Yeah.
is there something that I could do starting today when I pick up that book? Is there something I can do right now in the, in my community to put your ideas into action?
Yeah, I think the first thing is to get awareness. Like if I'm an entrepreneur, that's a great question. If I'm an entrepreneur and I read Newkirknomics, I'm probably like, oh man, there's a lot of opportunity for me to service. There's a lot of income right here in my community, but
Mhm.
how do I get access to it? So I'm hoping that entrepreneurs, when they read it first, especially if they read the fourth chapter, it talks
Mhm.
about the stages. And I give a lot of my personal experiences. It'll give them some tools to get organized, to go
Mhm.
ahead and conceptualize their ideas so they can get into one of these stages and so they can start tracking themselves, get themselves some milestones. And I also lay out what type of core resources they need to kind of surround themselves with.
Mhm.
So the first is that opportunities to build yourself locally, to build your reputation, to get in your local procurement ecosystem so you can start getting some contracts, to
Okay.
build you some sustainable revenue so you can then get the capital to grow the business. I think the biggest challenge in the book, I said that every community, ideally, what would our
Mhm.
communities look like if every community, every entrepreneur in every community in the country had a coach or had
Mhm.
coaching, had a contract, and had capital to start their venture? Like, what would the success rates look like if this were the standard that we held ourselves accountable to? So accountable to. So coaching,
Mhm.
contract, and capital based on their development stage as they went out into their journey. So
Mm.
that really is what I would think for entrepreneurs is those big three, because that's really, you got to get coached up to compete in the marketplace today because we retweet a lot of our trainings with AI. AI can make you a much better entrepreneur a lot faster if you understand how to
Oh
use it.
yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
so, as opposed to sitting up, because for me, I've done with the book, I did with VAs to capture information and research that it would taken 3 or 4 people to find. Because I
Yeah.
dug out and got a lot of deep data. But so that's what from an entrepreneur, I gave a lot of jewels to kind of get them prepared for the emerging economy. I call it the innovation economy and how to get plugged
Okay.
into.
Mm. Now, looking ahead, okay, so you have Genesis Block, you have your book. Um, with everything that you're building, what are you most excited about right now, would you say?
I'm most excited about putting this $35 trillion number on the neighborhood economy
Mm.
and Newkirklytics building the operating system to measure it, to make it visible, and make it investable. That's been my dream as a kid. But to put it all together, it took a little bit over a decade. But and to be able to scale this not only here and on main streets in America, but also in the global South, the diaspora. I do a lot of work with the diaspora, with the
Uh-huh.
Black Blockchain Summit. And so I'm really excited to go to places like Ghana and Kenya with these new ideas and these new ways to measure. They're already, especially in Kenya, they already have a digital economy. So with a lot of the indices that I'm building out to measure them to make them more investable, I think there are going to be a lot of really great pilots and a lot of great projects to come out from us over the next year. And they're going to be a lot more state and national and international in flavor. So I think that's what I'm most excited about. It's
I love
growing
it.
and scaling.
I love it. Now, for the listeners who follow you or want to follow you or support you, buy your book, what's the best way to find you online, would you say?
Oh man, we got a lot. So on Facebook, I'm Girard Newkirk, GIRARDNEWKIR. Our website is genesisblockilm.com. At Twitter, I'm very active. It's G Newkirklytics. You can get the book now on Amazon. It's Newkirknomics. We're going to have it begin in stores, I think, the end of this month. So I think next week they're going
Oh,
to be
nice.
in Barnes& and Noble, Roosted Bakery on Castle,
Okay.
the Artworks.
Yeah.
They're going to be a distribution center. I have about 9 areas. I haven't formally made the contract, so I'm not announcing all of them. And then the goal is to look out for Newkirknomics Live. That's going to be kind of the tour concept that we're going to be bringing. But really look at it on Twitter and on LinkedIn. I'm Girard Newkirk. So I'm very active on
Yeah.
social media. And IG is G Newkirklytics as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, I'm a firm believer of nobody does things by themselves. And I believe in giving shout outs and thank yous. And I know you have a big network and you can't to say thank you to everybody. So,
Yeah.
but if you wanted to give a shout out to just a few people in your immediate, go
Man,
ahead and shout them out.
I got to give a shout out to the coalition, especially Jerry Coleman. Jerry has been a really great partner. A lot of the success of Genesis Block. Jerry Coleman's on our Mount Rushmore. The partnership we made to build a pipeline for minority businesses back in 2022 has led to a lot of success. And a lot of the companies, the Honeyheads, Chris Everett, a lot of people that had a touch point, excuse me, not Chris Everett, but Michelle Bethea, Tiffany Hansley, a lot of people that had those touch points, they ended up in Genesis Block, and we built a really good pipeline. So I have to give Jerry a shout out for that because he does a lot of special work. I don't want to keep going in because there'll be Demia, you have people calling me saying, "Why don't you give me
I
a
know,
shout
I
out?"
know. Why you didn't say my name? Well, okay, so we're just going to. How about just round it up? Just thank everybody that's
I
ever.
do. There's so many, man. There's so many. That's even city and local government, City of Wilmington, New Hanover County,
Mhm,
uh, North State Bank, UCB. We've had tons of people that have been with us, Duke Energy from the very beginning.
mhm,
Joe Finley is on our Mount Rushmore. Pastor Robert Campbell has been there from the very beginning, always been a tremendous supporter. There's so many, man, there's so many. Like I said, you're going to give me my
There's so
mom and
many
dad,
people.
though.
Oh, your mom and dad. And you know what? I think I got a picture of one of your family members. I think it might have been your dad. I'm
Mm.
not sure. I know I got a picture of somebody, but that's awesome. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. You guys have a strong foundation over there at Genesis Block and Beyond. So I'm going to make sure that I put all your links down at the bottom for everybody
Awesome.
to make sure that you can click each link and get in contact with Girard and get hit. Make sure you get his book, not just look at it. We want you to actually purchase that purchase that book.
Tell
And
me what you think.
yeah, that's right. That's right. So we are out of here. Is there anything else you would like to discuss? Because I want to make sure that everybody out here knows everything about you guys.
No, that's it, man. And our big thing, our biggest push now is to get people to begin to understand economics at their level, at the level of the neighborhood, where it matters most, the closest layer of the economy to them, to begin to think about it in that context. And once you
Awesome.
begin to think about it in that context, things start to make a lot of sense.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we want to thank Girard Newkirk for coming on the show today. Again, we got all his links at the bottom. Make sure you go and support and check out everything and that he has, as well as the Genesis block. And we are out of here, guys. We'll talk to you later. All right. Bye-bye.